There comes a point in every person's life where the world starts whispering, you can't do it. They say you're not smart enough, not strong enough, not ready enough. And maybe at one point you even believed them. But today that ends. Because today you make a decision, not just a wish, not just a hope, a decision that says, I will prove everyone wrong. You see, people like Tony Robbins always remind us. It's not the lack of resources that stops you, it's the lack of resourcefulness. And when you tap into that inner power, that hunger, that unbreakable fire, you stop living for their approval and you start living for your potential. You don't have to scream at the world to prove them wrong. You just have to show up every single day with certainty. When they doubt, you keep building. When they laugh, you keep learning. When they ignore you, you keep growing. And when they finally notice, it's too late. Because by then, you've already become the person they said you'd never be. Let me tell you something, every successful person you admire, whether it's Tony Robbins or anyone who's ever created massive change, they all had doubters. Tony was told he'd never make it out of a small apartment, that he'd never be anything more than a janitor. And yet, he didn't listen to the noise. He built a life by choosing action over opinion, purpose over fear, and vision over validation. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need applause to grow. You just need that decision, that moment where you draw a line in the sand and say, I'm done letting them write my story. So when they say you can't, look them in the eye and smile, not with anger, not with pride, but with quiet certainty, because you already know you're going to do it. And when you finally do, don't say, I told you so. Just say, thank you for the fuel. Because every no they gave you was a seed for your comeback. Every time they laughed was just another rep in your mental gym. And every time you felt small, that was the universe testing if you were ready to grow big. So from this moment on, walk like it's already done. Work like your future self is watching you. Speak like your dream is listening. And live like your victory is inevitable, because you will prove everyone wrong, not with your words, but with your results. And that's the most powerful proof of all. There's a moment in life when everything changes. When you get lucky, not when the world suddenly believes in you, but when you finally decide. That's the power of decision over doubt. The instant you make a real decision, not just a wish or a hope, but a full body, all in burn the boats decision, your life starts to shift. You can't make progress while second guessing yourself. You can't rise while negotiating with your fears. You have to plant your flag in the ground and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and nothing is going to stop me. That's the moment you stop waiting for confidence and start creating it. Because confidence doesn't come before the decision, it comes after. Doubt whispers. It tells you you're not ready. It reminds you of every failure, every time you tried and came up short. It plays on repeat the voices of others who told you to be realistic. But doubt is not truth, it's just a pattern. And like any pattern, you can break it. Tony Robbins often says, your destiny is shaped in your moments of decision, not your moments of luck, not your moments of comfort, but those moments when fear is screaming louder than belief and you still choose to move forward. That's where the transformation happens. When you make a true decision, something shifts inside of you. You go from I hope to you go from I'll try, it's done. That's the language of champions. Every person who's ever accomplished something extraordinary has faced the same doubts you do. They felt fear, uncertainty, and pain, but they made a decision to act anyway. The difference between those who dream and those who achieve isn't talent or timing. It's commitment. It's the decision to keep moving even when your mind says stop. Think about it. How many times have you been one decision away from changing everything? One phone call, one message, one step forward could have opened a door, but doubt made you hesitate. And hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever could. The people who rise don't wait until they feel ready. They act, and through that action, they become ready. Every breakthrough starts with that one courageous choice. You can spend your life negotiating with your fears, or you can decide once and for all to dominate them. A decision has power because it cuts off all other options. The word decide comes from the Latin decider, which literally means to cut off. When you decide, you cut off the path of retreat, you burn the boats, you leave yourself no way back except forward. That's when your mind stops entertaining excuses and starts engineering results. That's when you find out what you're truly capable of. Every time you hesitate, you give power to doubt. Every time you decide, you take that power back. The truth is, the world doesn't respond to indecision, it responds to certainty. People feel it when you're committed, when your energy says, this is happening. The universe starts moving when you do. And in that moment, you stop being a victim of circumstance and become the creator of your life. So today, make a decision. Decide that your dream is non-negotiable. Decide that your past does not define your future. Decide that your power is greater than your pain. Because once you decide, truly decide, you'll never go back to who you were. You'll step into who you were meant to be. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote? Resourcefulness resources in the same 600-word Tony Robbins style format. It's never the lack of resources that holds you back. It's the lack of resourcefulness. That's what Tony Robbins teaches, and it's one of the most powerful truths you'll ever understand. You see, people often wait for the perfect time, the perfect funding, perfect team, the perfect plan. They tell themselves, if only I had more money, if only I had the right connections, if only I had better opportunities. But the reality is, you don't need more resources. You just need to get more resourceful, because resourcefulness is the ultimate human power. It's the art of turning what you have into what you need. Think about it. Every great breakthrough in history was born out of limitation. People didn't change the world because everything was handed to them. They changed it because they refused to let limitations define them. When you're truly hungry, when your vision burns so brightly that it consumes your excuses, you'll find a way. You'll turn setbacks into strategy. You'll use failure as fuel. You'll look at what's missing and ask, how can I make it happen anyway? That's the mindset that separates the average from the extraordinary. Tony often says, if you can't, you must. That phrase captures the essence of resourcefulness. When life says no, resourcefulness says, watch me. When the door closes, resourcefulness finds a window. It's not about having everything. It's about using everything. The truth is, the most successful people in the world didn't start with the most money or the best circumstances. Many started with nothing, but they had drive. They had creativity. They had emotional intensity. They didn't complain about what they didn't have. They leveraged what they did have until it multiplied. Resourcefulness is about tapping into the invisible forces inside you: passion, creativity, determination, courage, faith. These are resources you can access at any moment. But most people never do because they're too focused on what's missing. They live in a state of scarcity. But when you shift your focus from scarcity to possibility, your whole world changes. Instead of asking, why can't I? You start asking, how can I? That question opens doors that didn't even exist before. When Tony Robbins was young, he didn't have wealth, education, or privilege. He had pain, hunger, and a burning desire to change his life. He started feeding his mind with books, attending seminars, and learning from every failure. That's resourcefulness. He didn't wait for opportunities. He created them. He turned what most people would call disadvantages into fuel for transformation. And that's exactly what you can do. Resourcefulness also means using the people around you not in a selfish way, but in a collaborative one. It means asking for help when you need it, sharing your vision with others, and finding those who can fill your gaps. It means being creative enough to see potential in places others overlook. Every challenge is an invitation to grow your resourcefulness. Every problem is a puzzle waiting to be solved with imagination and persistence. If you lose your job, resourcefulness says, this is my chance to build something new. If you fail a business, resourcefulness says, no, I know what doesn't work. If you face rejection, resourcefulness says, good, now I'm closer to someone who says yes. That's the power of perspective. You don't control what happens, but you control what it means. And meaning is the fuel of resourcefulness. So don't wait for your circumstances to change. Don't wait for someone to hand you what you think you need. Everything you need is already inside you. When you access your full creativity, when you decide that there's always a way, you become unstoppable. Resourcefulness is the ultimate equalizer. It's what turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. And once you master it, there's no limit to what you can create, even with nothing. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote? Action silences opinions in the same 600-word Tony Robbins motivational tone. There's a point where you realize that words don't move the world, action does. You can talk about your dreams, defend your goals, and argue with doubters all day long, but none of it will change a thing until you take action. That's why the most powerful response to judgment, criticism, or disbelief is progress. You don't have to convince people who doubt you. You just have to keep moving. Action is the language of certainty. It doesn't shout, it shows. It doesn't argue, it proves. When you start taking consistent, bold steps toward what you want, opinions fade into the background because results become impossible to ignore. Tony Robbins often says, never leave the scene of a decision without taking massive action. Why? Because action locks in belief. You can decide all day long, but if you don't follow that decision with movement, your mind starts negotiating again. You start overthinking, doubting, hesitating. The antidote to doubt isn't motivation, it's movement. The moment you act, you interrupt fear. The moment you move forward, even just a little, you create momentum. And momentum is power. It's the invisible force that takes small steps and turns them into unstoppable progress. The truth is, most people never get started because they're waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a myth. You don't act because you're confident, you become confident because you act. Every time you take a step despite uncertainty, you build proof that you can. And that proof becomes your power. It silences the noise in your head and the opinions around you because now you're no longer just talking about potential. You're demonstrating it. People will always have something to say. They'll question your choices, your timing, your path. They'll project their own fears onto your dreams. But you don't need to fight them with words. You don't need to waste your energy defending your vision. Let your work speak. Let your progress echo louder than their opinions. Because when your actions align with your purpose, you no longer seek validation. You create transformation. Every great achiever in history was doubted before they were celebrated. Think about it. Every innovator, leader, or creator faced criticism long before success. They didn't spend time arguing with critics, they spent time creating results. Tony Robbins faced it too. In his early days, people laughed at his intensity, his energy, his certainty. But he didn't stop to explain himself. He kept serving, teaching, and transforming lives. Now, millions around the world listen to the same energy that once got him ridiculed. That's the power of action. It turns ridicule into recognition. When you take massive, consistent action, something else happens. You start trusting yourself. You no longer need external proof because you become your own evidence. Every result, no matter how small, becomes a reminder that you're capable. And as that inner certainty grows, the outside noise becomes irrelevant. You stop reacting to opinions because you're too busy producing outcomes. Action also creates clarity. You don't need to have everything figured out before you start. The path reveals itself as you move. Waiting for certainty keeps you stuck, but acting creates it. You learn what works, what doesn't, and what you truly want by doing, not by thinking. Action turns confusion into clarity, and clarity turns into confidence. That's why people who take action always seem lucky. They're not lucky, they're learning faster than everyone else. So when people doubt you, don't argue, build. When they criticize, don't shrink, create. When they say you can't, smile and keep walking. Because every step forward is a statement, every result is an answer, and every win is a message that says, I didn't need your approval, I needed my commitment. At the end of the day, no one remembers what you said you would do. They remember what you did, so don't talk about it, be about it. Let your actions speak so loudly that no one can question your direction, because action doesn't just silence opinions, it defines destiny. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote? Pain becomes power in the same 600-word Tony Robbins style tone. Pain is life's greatest teacher, though most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid it. But the truth is, pain is not your enemy, it's your invitation. Every breakthrough, every transformation, every moment of growth is born from discomfort. Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with. That means the people who grow the most are the ones willing to lean into pain, not run from it. Because pain reveals what you're made of. It burns away weakness and excuses until only strength remains. Think about it. Every great comeback story begins with struggle. Every champion, every leader, every legend has faced moments that broke them, humbled them, and forced them to rise higher. Pain introduces you to the parts of yourself you didn't know existed, the fighter, the survivor, the creator. When life knocks you down, it's not punishment, it's preparation. It's shaping you into someone strong enough to carry the weight of your destiny. Without that struggle, you wouldn't develop the muscle you need to handle success. Most people think pain means stop. They see it as a signal that something's wrong. But the high achievers, those who create real impact, see pain as a signal to grow. When something hurts, it's feedback. It's the universe saying, it's time to evolve. You can either drown in that pain or use it as fuel. That's what separates those who stay stuck from those who soar. Pain doesn't have to destroy you, it can define you. The moment you decide that your pain will serve you instead of scare you, it transforms from suffering into strength. Tony Robbins often talks about how his own painful childhood became his greatest source of power. He grew up with struggle, instability, and hardship, but instead of letting it break him, he used it as his drive to help others. He once said, If my mom had been the mother I thought I wanted, I wouldn't be as driven. I wouldn't care about other people's suffering the way I do. That's the essence of turning pain into power. It's about finding meaning in what hurt you. Because once you give your pain a purpose, it loses its power to control you. Every challenge you face is a chance to grow your emotional muscles. Physical muscles grow when you push them to the point of pain. Emotional muscles grow the same way. You can't build resilience, courage, or empathy by staying comfortable. It's the moments when your back is against the wall, when everything feels impossible, that your true potential awakens. That's where greatness is forged, not in ease, but in endurance. When you reframe pain as a tool instead of a threat, everything changes. You start asking better questions. Not why is this happening to me, but what is this teaching me? Not how do I escape this, but how do I use this? Those questions shift your mindset from victim to creator. Pain no longer traps you, it transforms you. Every scar becomes a story, every failure a foundation. And eventually, you realize that the pain you once cursed became the reason you succeeded. The truth is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can't control what happens, but you can control what it means. You can choose to see pain as a curse, or you can choose to see it as your calling. When you decide that nothing will be wasted, that even your deepest wounds will become your wisdom, you become unstoppable. So embrace your pain. Let it shape you, refine you, and remind you of your power. Because the same fire that burns can also forge. And when you rise from that fire, stronger and more certain than ever, the world will look at you and see what true power really means. Pain doesn't break the strong, it builds them. And if you let it, your pain will become the very force that propels you toward your purpose. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote, Vision over Validation, in the same 600-word Tony Robbins style tone? There comes a moment when you realize that chasing approval is the slowest form of death. You can't live your life trying to please everyone, because the truth is, no matter what you do, someone will always misunderstand you, criticize you, or doubt you. That's why the most powerful people on this planet don't chase validation. They chase vision. Tony Robbins often says, where focus goes, energy flows. When your focus is on validation, your energy leaks into fear and insecurity. But when your focus is on vision, your energy multiplies. You stop asking, what will they think of me? And start asking, what am I building? Who am I becoming? Validation is addictive. It feels good in the moment, it strokes your ego, gives you a quick rush of approval, but it fades fast. Vision, on the other hand, is eternal. It's the thing that pulls you when motivation fades. It's the picture of your future so vivid and alive that it drives you through rejection, doubt, and failure. When you live with vision, you no longer need people to clap for you. You're too busy creating something worth applauding. The danger of validation is that it ties your identity to other people's opinions. When they love you, you feel worthy. When they criticize you, you crumble. But that's not power, that's prison. Vision is freedom. Vision gives you an internal compass that no external noise can shake. When you know who you are and what you're here to create, you don't get distracted by every opinion, trend, or comparison. You move with certainty because your direction doesn't come from approval, it comes from purpose. Think about every world changer who's ever walked this earth: Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins himself. None of them were validated at the start. People laughed, doubted, and criticized them. But they didn't stop. They didn't need the world to understand them. They needed to stay faithful to the picture in their mind. Visionaries often walk alone because their dreams exist in a place most people can't yet see. The very thing people mock you for now will one day be the thing they celebrate you for. Tony Robbins talks about the difference between being a pleaser and being a bleeder. But pleasers adjust themselves to fit everyone else's expectations. Leaders adjust their environment to fit their vision. Pleasers seek comfort. Leaders seek clarity. When you live by vision, you make decisions not based on popularity, but on alignment. You start doing what's right for your growth, not what's easy for ego. And that's when life starts to open up in ways you never imagined. Validation feeds your insecurity. Vision feeds your destiny. When you stop needing to be like, you start becoming limitless. Because now you're no longer performing, you're creating, you're no longer proving, you're producing. And the irony is, once you stop chasing validation, people start respecting you more. They feel your certainty, your conviction, your purpose. People are drawn to leaders who don't need to be followed, who move with direction even when no one believes. You have to get to a point where your dream matters more than their doubt, where your purpose speaks louder than their opinions, where you can say, I respect your view, but I'm still going my way. Because when you stay true to your vision long enough, the world catches up. The same people who questioned your path will one day ask for your advice. The applause will come. But by then, you won't need it. So stop chasing likes and start chasing legacy. Don't live for the eyes watching you. Live for the fire burning within you. Because validation fades, but vision fulfills. And when your life becomes a reflection of the vision you hold inside, that's when you finally experience freedom. The freedom of living not for approval, but for purpose. Would you like me to continue with the next keynote? Results are the ultimate proof, in the same 600-word Tony Robbins style tone. In the end, talk fades. Excuses fade. Promises fade. But results are undeniable. Results are the ultimate proof. They're the quiet, powerful evidence that you didn't just dream. You did. You didn't just hope, you executed. Tony Robbins often says, the path to success is to take massive, determined action. Because the world doesn't respond to your intentions, it responds to your impact. You can say you're going to change, you can plan, visualize, and prepare, but none of it means anything until you produce results. That's the truth. Separates those who wish from those who win. Results don't lie. You can't fake consistency. You can't fake commit. You can't fake showing up when it's hard. People can doubt your words, but they can't deny your progress. That's why the most powerful statement you'll ever make isn't verbal. It's visible. It's when people see the transformation you've created and realize they actually did it. The same ones who questioned you will be forced to respect what you built because results command attention. They cut through noise, opinions, and criticism like nothing else can. Tony Robbins teaches that success leaves clues. And those clues always come from results, not rhetoric. If you want to change your life, stop measuring your intentions and start measuring your outcomes. Did you grow? Did you execute? Did you take that idea from thought to reality? Because the universe doesn't reward potential, it rewards performance. Every action you take is a seed planted in the soil of your future, and the harvest always reveals the truth. You don't have to tell people how serious you are. They'll know by what you produce. The hours you put in when no one's watching, the sacrifices you make, the standards you hold yourself to. Those are the invisible forces behind visible results. People often ask for belief before results, but it works the other way around. You build belief through results. Every small victory is proof that you can, and that proof compounds. It builds confidence, momentum, and certainty. That's why action is everything. It's the bridge between desire and destiny. Results also require responsibility. You can't blame circumstances, people, or luck if you want to grow. The moment you take full ownership of your outcomes, you take back your power. That's when you shift from victim to creator. Instead of saying, why isn't it working? You start asking, what do I need to change to make it work? That question alone separates those who stay stuck from those who succeed. Results are never random. They're the reflection of your standards, your consistency, and your mindset. When you produce results, something changes inside you. You stop needing to convince yourself that you're capable. You have proof. You've built evidence through action, and that evidence becomes confidence. That's why results are more than numbers or trophies. They're transformation. They're the mirror showing you the person you've become. They remind you that you no longer operate on excuses or emotions. You operate on execution. The people who truly change the world don't talk about how great they'll be someday. They just do the work. They stay late. They push harder. They show up when no one else does. And over time, that consistency compounds into something unstoppable. While others talk about goals, they're creating outcomes. While others seek approval, they're building empires. Because results don't just speak, they roar. So stop telling people what you're going to do and start showing them what you've done. Let your growth be your proof. Let your success be your answer. Don't waste energy trying to prove yourself to anyone. Prove yourself through your results. Because in the end, talk is temporary, but results are forever. They're the legacy you leave, the evidence that you didn't just exist, you achieved. And that's what makes all the struggle, all the sacrifice, and all the pain worth it.